Welcome to Saving America. This is your host, Dr. David D. Schein. And joining me on this special episode is Dennis Beaver and Lyle Sussman. Here's some quick background information on these two great guests. Dennis Beaver is well known as a syndicated columnist for the Kiplinger newsletter and other publications. He is a successful attorney. He looks forward to helping others and does not charge readers who ask for his legal guidance, generally on consumer matters. He speaks French and Swedish fluently, and his English is pretty good too. His wife of 48 years, Anne, helps him run his law practice and has assisted him with a serious bout with cancer. Lyle Sussman is an emeritus professor at the University of Louisville. He is the former of the Management and Entrepreneurship Department. He is a best-selling author with 1 million copies of his books out in 15 languages. Lyle and his wife, Susie, have been married for 54 years, and she is also an accomplished professional. I have had the good fortune to meet both of these gentlemen and their wives in person. The bios of both of these accomplished gentlemen are much, much longer, but hey, we need to leave time for our discussion. Dennis, please get us started today. Tell us about your recent experience when getting contacted about an important follow-up meeting with your doctor regarding your cancer surgery.
Yeah, a little history. I had bladder cancer, and in six years ago, I had my bladder removed, right kidney, prostate. We couldn't find our car keys, and our Chihuahua vanished. Nobody told me, but they told my wife I had about a year to live. It's interesting. Had I been told that, would I have been the willing accomplice of the self-fulfilling prophecy? Who knows? But Anne replied to the surgeon, "You don't know, Beav." And it has been 6 years. I was stage 4. It was in my liver. And my oncologist refers to me as his miracle patient because I had the most aggressive form of bladder cancer with about a 2% survival chance. So every 4 to 5 months or so, I get PET scans and CAT scans. So all of a sudden, I don't get any phone calls. And suddenly a letter arrives at home. No phone calls, no nothing. We have voicemail, answering machines, you name it. Our telephones at home and at the office record all the numbers, shows who called or the number. So call and hang up, but still a number registers. Nothing since May. And a letter arrives at home. Poorly written. The English was not good. Dear Hart, my actual legal name is Hartley Dennis Beaver. So it was Dear Hartley. We tried to reach you several times and please call. The envelope in which this letter came was handwritten poorly, wasn't aligned, so nothing. What you would assume they would know how to, pardon my voice, we have wildfires around town here. You'd think they would know how to use the computer to print an envelope. No way. So I phoned the person, her name was Bada, initial L, no last name, and talked to her. Like, why didn't I get a phone call? Oh, I called you. I tried calling. When did you try calling? She gives me dates. We never got a call. Never got a call at home or at the office or on my cell phone. You have all these numbers. Oh, I'm telling you, I tried. Yeah. How about an email? Oh, we don't do that. We don't do that. Right. Now, it's important to be on top of cancer, right? It could come back. Probably not. It's probably cured. Hopefully. But the incompetence of this was absolutely stunning. So what is hell going on with this country? Why can't high school graduates write, have a sense of language, grammar? That's what led to my writing both of you and expressing my frustration.
you you brought up two major issues. You bring up the issue of competence, and then you raise the question, what's happening in this country? Well, let's assume that the person who said they reached out to you, but in fact did not, was about 25 years old. That means they were born about you're born about 1999 or 2000. They were raised with a cell phone in their hand. They were raised in a milieu, in an environment where they simply had to press an icon and they had answers to their questions. They were raised in an environment where pressing an icon would tell them whether or not their grammar was correct, whether or not spell check were correct. That is, they came to believe that was a help, when in fact it was a horrible, horrible hindrance. It prevented them from learning exactly the kind of skills that you're highlighting. Skills about relating to a reader, relating to a listener, skills about understanding the situation. And in fact, your scenario is not only about communication skills, it's also about understanding the severity of the message. You were a patient that needed valuable information and you weren't getting it. So regardless of the fluency of the message, you weren't getting the essence of the message. It was not only English malpractice. I see it as almost medical malpractice.
Yeah.
Well, it is a real challenge in the United States today. As a professor, I have been shocked, especially with my younger students, the first or second year students. They do not appear to have really had the type of structured education that I had growing up, and that I think both of you did. And one of the things that I think is very much missing is I have begun assigning short research papers some of my classes. I've got students who have been admitted to this private college who have never done a research paper through high school and do not know how to do footnotes or endnotes, do not know how to reference stuff from the library and stuff like that. But I am hearing from some of my fellow professors, and particularly a finance professor, by the way, Lyle, that he just assumes that they know nothing. I mean, starts from zero, which means that the courses at the college level, if you assume that, you're teaching a college course that's half of the course is going to be a high school remedial course in math and statistics and things like that many of us had in our first year of college, but were set up for it by having good math skills and things leaving high school. So I am concerned, and I know in some of the schools today they're talking about taking the cell phones away as a way of getting the students to focus in the classroom, because distraction is a big issue too.
I have an experience you two, I think, will enjoy. I taught leadership and communication in a master's accounting class. So these were MBA students who were getting a master's in accounting. So they come in with a very, very strong quantitative background. They can multiply two-digit numbers in their head and they'd get them right. And the first meeting we had, I said, okay, you're all going to give an impromptu speech. And I thought the class was going to have a fit. I thought they were going to call 911. I said, all I want you to do is talk to your colleagues about some certain issues related to accounting. And to a person, they said, but we don't have our PowerPoint in front of us. How can we do that? That's what they said. How can we talk without our PowerPoint in front of us? And I said, well, I want you to know generations of MBA students did it before you, and you will do it in my class. Knowing something is one thing. Being able to communicate what you know is very, very different. And if you want to succeed in society, you have to go beyond knowing something. You have to communicate what you know in a way that people will see it as knowledgeable and respectful and as meeting their needs. Dennis, let me ask you a question about your case. At any time, did the agency or that person ever apologize for creating the frustration they created?
No, and in fact, I even sent an email to one of the executives there. Very, very nice lady. I left her a voicemail. Here's what happened. You know, this does not make me happy. Then I sent her an email, kind of summarizing that I have not heard back from anyone, and it is a superb facility. And in fact, one of the head physicians there, when he first came to Bakersfield years ago, I had a talk show, a Saturday morning radio talk show. I had him on twice on a first-name relationship basis, and great guy, had great treatment. The guy saved my life. And I told in the email, I said, I am here today because you were there for me yesterday. That was my closing line in the email.
You know, when we talk about communication, there's an assumption that it's about grammar and syntax and spelling and word choice and vocabulary. And obviously it is about that. But one level above that, which is what really differentiates those who succeed versus those who don't, is understanding context, understanding the situation, understanding the person who's going to be reading the message or listening to the message. And what I'm hearing and seeing from my colleagues at the university and what I'm reading in the relevant papers, there's a huge deficiency, not just in the basics of grammar and syntax and spelling and vocabulary, but in the nuances of understanding context. The scenario you presented, Dennis, is the combination of pure grammar and foundation principles, but also context, the situation, and what's compounding the problem. Back to your question, Dennis, about what's happening in our world and of competency. What's compounding the problem is the introduction of artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and the other software packages where a student can simply say, write me an essay on topic X, and they press the button and out comes a 10, 15-page report on X, and they turn it in. Exactly. David, you are still a professor. I retired 6 years ago, but I am hearing horror stories about students turning in papers that they didn't even write.
I am very concerned about it. And one of the solutions, papers that I mentioned earlier, are personal. In other words, the question is on business ethics, and it is, what is the basis for your personal ethical guidelines, and where did that come from? Out of, say, 8 papers, I will get at least 20 of those papers will come in, and I will read them and send them back to the student and say, this paper does not even fit the assignment. Now, I don't know if that's because they tried to use AI. AI is still pretty new. It's not readily available to everybody. It's out, but it's not totally available. So I think it will be an increasing problem in the future. And that I've also begun to build into my syllabi that use of AI is not permitted for school assignments. And we're going to fine tune that, because they can use AI in an in-depth research paper. If you wanted to get started on a topic, you could say, hey, AI, tell me a little bit about topic X. That's legitimate. That's a fair use. But then they still have to go and do the homework. So separating the starter point using AI from what we want them to do as researchers, that's going to be indeed a growing challenge as we go forward, because, you know, AI is all around us and it's come very fast.
Dennis, your case, I keep coming back to your case. What's happening in the medical system right now is algorithms are driving many, many decisions, administrative decisions and medical decisions. And once an issue came up in your case and an algorithm couldn't solve, the human being who was charged with solving it couldn't solve the problem. And not only could that person not solve the problem, she made the problem worse.
This young lady who contacted me, she's a gatekeeper. And sometimes the lowest level person in an organization is critically important, in this case, to patients and to the image the organization radiates to the world.
Well, the question becomes, how do we get, and where is the focus that needs to be? And I have been arguing that we need a big focus on K-12, on the basics. And, you know, I get a little concerned, and I've said this in my social media, that we don't need to be teaching sex education to 6-year-olds. We need to be teaching English, manners, and math. And even though I'm a business school professor, I really push STEM, science, technology, you know, engineering, math. And in fact, I'm very excited. One of my sons is a high school teacher, and he's teaching engineering in high school to stimulate the students. It's part of their math department, to stimulate the students to think about professions in engineering. And I think that's very important, because we cannot be successful as a country without having people that are willing to do the math and the statistics and, you know, pursue that kind of stuff. And like I said, even though I'm in the business school, I strongly promote people pursuing the STEM subjects.
Not just technical skills, but social skills is the issue of grade inflation. Years ago, there was an assumption of what a 3.0 grade point meant. We can't make that assumption anymore. Matter of fact, the assumption now is that grades have been inflated by about 0.8 over the last 20 years. That a 3.5 today would be like a 2.7 10, 15, 20 years ago.
That's a very valuable point, Lyle, and I've encountered that, in that the students come to me and will have an 88 average, and then 90 is required for an A-, and they'll be, after the semester, I mean, they'll come and say, well, Dr. Schein, you know, I really needed an A- in this course. And it's like, it's an 88, it's not a 90, and we don't do that. Now, Vietnam War actually triggered the current wave of grade inflation. We're still suffering from that, because what happened is if Joe Blow flunked out of college, you got a 2S deferment that back in the mandatory draft, which ran through part of the Vietnam War, you got a 2S deferment. If you flunked out of college, then you basically, they put a rifle in your hand, sent you to boot camp, and sent you to Vietnam. So a lot of the professors were opposed to the war in Vietnam and used their political leanings to influence what they were doing in the classroom. And as a result of that, we had tremendous grade inflation that triggered in the 70s. One of the things that I'm frustrated by is that in higher ed today, every class comes with a student faculty evaluation. For young faculty, especially your assistant professors, your associate professors, those student evals are considered in promotion to full professor. And so it gives the professors who are already, who grew up in the system of grade inflation and who are hopeful of getting good reviews from their students, even further incentive to give grades that are frankly not earned.
A few years ago, I gave a presentation, and it was called "The University of Lake Wobegon." Remember when Garrison Keillor talked about Lake Wobegon? All the women are beautiful, all the men are strong, and all the kids are above average. Dennis, I think you were dealing with an administrator who graduated from the University of Lake Wobegon, where everyone was above average.
I wish it was so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we, and this is not the three of us, I think our country, our world is now reaping the consequences of believing that everyone is above average. David, thank you for this. I think everyone viewing this has an important question to answer themselves, and that is, did I graduate from Lake Wobegon? Am I doing as well as I can? Am I performing as well as I should? Am I communicating in a way that really helps someone at the other end?
And my observation is that when some of the worst things in the world, the worst things imaginable, happen to you or family or close friends, to look at it and can you extract something beneficial, something that will help make you a better person, help you help others along the journey that we all follow. And Dave, thank you so much for this time.
Thank you.
It has been my pleasure. Dennis Beaver, Bakersfield, California, and Emeritus Professor Lyle Sussman from the University of Louisville. And I have been so delighted to have both of you with us on Saving America.